All right, let's talk pop filters. Pop filters are what this guy is right here. It helps reduce plosive sounds like from B's, T's, and P's. So if I'm saying things like Peter Piper, it stops the wind from my mouth from hitting the microphone because the microphone's very sensitive. So I say Peter Piper, like I'm purposely trying to mess it up. But you get the idea. You can see the waveforms of the audio right here that it is definitely making a big difference as opposed to big difference. I guess it still kind of does it, but definitely not as much because a lot of the air isn't hitting the microphone. A lot of people, when I'm recording them, I see that they really want to get really close up to the microphone. It kind of causes the proximity effect, which increases the low end, the bass in the recording. So that's not necessarily good. And it doesn't break up the plosive sounds as well. So what I'll tend to do is have the pop filter a few fingers, maybe 2 to 3 fingers away from the mic, and then ask them to stand at least 2 to 3 fingers or more away from the pop filter. For some people who are really, really bad about it, I have to pull the pop filter really far back from them because they still like to go right up to the pop filter. I guess it's better to have the pop filter closer to the mic and you to be farther away. That way the plosive sounds can naturally disperse without the use of the pop filter. So basically the pop filter itself has to do less work. If you didn't know, the actual grill itself of the mic, that mesh material, is a pop filter in a way. It's not necessarily as good as this external one that's a bit farther away from the mic, but it still can get the job done. You may see professional singers who don't even use a pop filter. As long as you're talking to the mic from an angle, let me move this over a bit. As long as you're talking to the mic at an angle, so have the mic facing the artist, but have the artist face slightly away from the mic. It still can pick up the voice fairly evenly as long as they're not moving around. As soon as they start to move around or check out a piece of paper or bob their head a bit, it's going to pick up a bit different depending on which way that they're facing. So I've heard of some people putting a sock over the microphone, which I admittedly have done before for a few videos. When I did not have a pop filter, maybe my cat ripped it, or I think someone stole one time. So I had to use a sock because I just had to keep making videos. This was a few years ago. Socks do work, but definitely not as well as an actual pop filter. I had to put several socks on, and then my voice kind of sounded a bit muffled. A lot of the high end was taken out, so it was just like bass and mids, and it didn't sound very nice. So I would not recommend using a sock. If you're really trying to be cheap about this, at least spend the money to have at least one really good pop filter. This one's pretty decent. I'm not sure exactly what it was. Let me see. It's a Natty MPF-6 6-inch pop filter. Maybe not the best pop filter around, but it's been decent enough that it's been lasting me quite some time. It actually stands when I flex it around. It actually stays usually where I want it to. It's a bit top heavy if you're pulling it all the way out, but it usually stands pretty sturdy. I haven't really had that many problems with it. A lot of cheap pop filters, you'll notice that the mesh is maybe just one-sided or very cheap material, and it just kind of starts to droop. This one's pretty decent. So I think you should at least invest in one really nice pop filter, and then from there get some pantyhose. If it rips, you can always unscrew it here and just replace the actual screen itself with something better. And the pantyhose are extremely cheap, so you can just use that. Make sure that they're clean, preferably not used. All right, and one last test of how this works. I'm just gonna blow at the microphone. So pop filters can be used for a lot of artists' natural breath. If you're taking a breath, some artists who are a bit too close might be breathing on the mic or even spitting on the mic. So pop filter will help your mic stay a little bit cleaner too. All right, the last thing I want to say about pop filters is that you should not put one on an instrument that does not need it, which are pretty much every instrument. You don't need to put them on drum overheads or a guitar amp. That's just silly because they don't produce that much air actually flowing out at once that it's going to make a big difference. Do it for things like vocals, or if you happen to have really random weird instruments that produce a lot of air. Like if you're recording a subwoofer. I've heard of bands like Noisia recording subwoofer sounds with some tissue paper over top, and maybe to stop the mic from distorting, you might want to put a pop filter on that. But that's just because it's a burst of air, and it's a really creative way of using a pop filter and recording sounds. So don't put it on things that really don't need it. Pretty much 99% of the time, it's just going to be for vocals. So I'm tired of talking about pop filters, and I'm sure you're tired of hearing me talk about pop filters. So have fun in the studio, guys. Like this video if you like it. Dislike this video if you think that it sucks. Check out my channel for more videos on Ableton Live, audio production and recording. And most importantly, never stop making music.